Hey, this is Nick from Remedy667.com, the best place on the internet for horror-themed typefaces and fonts. And today is Horror Font Friday. So we're going to be taking a look at some more lettering from the poster that we did last week. I scanned them in last week, but I got a bad scan of Bloodsuckers, which is the first movie, which is what I wanted to do today. But today, whatever, we're going to do Bloodthirst instead. How great is that? All right, let's just jump right into it. Like, this is fun. So, first thing we want to do is just ungroup it. The second thing we want to do, because after doing this for a bit, I've realized that I'm less of a fan of trying to mess with things that are inclined, because, and it doesn't really pose too much of a problem in the alphabet, but once you get into, like, let's say a character where I have to flip something, it's like the ampersand gets weird. I don't know. Either way, what we're going to do today is we're going to make this as upright as we can. So let's say it's probably like a 15% degree, whatever. So that's interesting. See how it makes everything look a little like kind of wide and weird. That's how we're going to start. Wide and weird. DHIL. Whoa. I knew that was going to happen, but for some reason I wasn't really thinking about it. So when it happened, I was like, oh. LORST. So this is going to be interesting because it is. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of align everything. I think it might move. Was it this? Yep. And so I think I have it set to align with the art boards. There we go. All right, I'm going to line those, and then I'm going to duplicate my... this is so weird without an E. An E just feels like a natural place to start. And it's just weird not having one. But I got a crossbar on my H, I got a T, I got an L. So let's make this. Whoops. Whoa, not that. I can't remember how to hide my guides for some reason today. I'm just going to stick them on their own layer and lock it. And then we can still see them, but they're not in the way. So let's go ahead and move all this over. I'm going to use this I as well, probably in this. So this is interesting. You see how we have the drips. Notice the drips are only on the bottom, which actually makes this quite a bit easier, because then we don't have to draw as many or create as many drips. And probably what we'll also end up doing is we're probably just going to do a quick cut layer of most of the bottom. So we're not going to draw the drips in originally. We're going to apply them after, if that makes sense. And you know what? I might even break that rule. So, because I feel like a rule breaker this Friday. On a nice Friday afternoon in April.
No two persons can kill so many people exactly the same way each time.
Except for one thing.
I don't know if the TV's too loud. The movie we have on today is Bloodthirst. If you watch Horror Font Friday regularly, you'll know that we probably saw this for like the first time a couple weeks ago when we were doing a different typeface, and I can't even remember what that one was at this point. Horror Font Friday is such a fun thing. I also feel like because it's the end of my work week, I'm kind of like in a blur. Like it's easy to bust through stuff really fast because I'm just in this hyper focus work mode. And I've been having some crazy busy weeks lately at work. So I'm also not that. I'm going to literally maybe be chopping up some letters while we're in here, just so I can get the rounding off looking good. But yeah, so just saw this movie for the first time not that long ago. Don't remember if it was good. I think it was definitely interesting. Don't remember if it was like actually horror. You know how there's movies like that, like oh, what's a good example? Like I don't know. I'm too involved in this process right now. Like an Al Adamson movie or something. Like it's a horror movie, but like it's not really a horror movie. You know, like it's not really scary. It's just like got monsters in it for some reason, even though it's really a bank robbery movie or something. Like, I think it's one of those. I also want to say like Night of the Leeches or Attack of the 50-Foot Woman kind of also fall into that category because every couple of years it'll get me and I'll be like, oh, I've never actually seen Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, because in my mind I'm like, oh, it's gonna look like the poster or something, and then I watch it again and I'm like, oh, I remember this movie. Like 5 minutes in. But that's also the beauty of these classic movies, like in exploitation films, is the posters are so wild and interesting, and you know, sometimes the movie isn't. Whatever. But there's a fun in that as well. Uh-oh. Oh, I know I'm gonna make the G. See, watch. That reflect. See, it already has a little bit of an angle because I didn't get everything perfectly up and down. But imagine how much worse that would have been with an italic start, you know? These little dots inside the blood spots are going to drive me bonkers before this day is done. L&M. I think the N's actually going to be a little wider than the H, just because, like, how's that going to fit otherwise, you know? So I think what I'm going to do, first I'm going to try and get the I to cooperate. Looks like this is attaching to the left. Okay, so that's not too bad. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to trim that right there. and go over like that.
His name is Calderon.
And group those together. Gonna make the P.
Was that a joke?
I'm gonna cut it there.
I guess there isn't too much more to say except good night.
Except one thing.
Yes?
Right now, my brother needs the help of people who can
Actually, hold on. This is what I actually want to do.
Wisecracking skeptic who ignore the possibility of the opposite. All right, I'm just surprised that you believe in such things.
Do you have all the answers to life, Mr. Roy?
Look at that. So destructive and strange. Alright, so we'll
Well, then it might surprise
fix
you to
that
find out that there are still
area.
some mysteries.
Smooth that out.
Some policemen seem unable to answer. Good night, Mr. Roy.
I came here to help Miguel. And
Remember, we're just drawing letters.
because you're his sister, it makes it a lot more pleasant if I have your friendship too. But I don't need it.
You want to make a font, you do that later on your own time.
I won't form any final opinions in this case until all the facts are in. If you do the same with me.
For my Q,
All right.
I'm going to use this other O and assume that it's different. I've learned a lot of things about making assumptions in the last couple weeks, especially when talking with developers who are very technical. So this, I think I want it up, but I also want it down. So I think what I'm going to do is erase the top of that one and erase the bottom of this one. And we're also just going to pull that up a little bit just in case it got caught. And probably going to pull that in a little bit. Delete that. This looks kind of lumpy weird right here, so I'm gonna actually go in with it
I was just going to ask you something very personal, but you had that business before pleasure.
just so it
Not really.
kind of plays
Well, I'm not very subtle, but be sure.
off of it a little better.
My name is Teresa.
Hey, RST are already done. That R is great. Like the left side of it feels a little off, but the right side of it feels fine. And I'm not going to correct it at all because I think it'll look interesting. Where should we go from here? Look at that. We made a whole typeface last week. I don't know if you watched. I did. So last week I went through and I went through the whole kit and caboodle on a video. And then after the video, I went in to Procreate and I did stylistic sets. 2 stylistic sets. And then I coded it so it'll rotate. It'll rotate between the 3. The uppercase stylistic set 1 and stylistic set 2. It'll alternate between the 3 as you type. But if you have contextual alternates off, the lowercase, there's no lowercase set, so it's not gonna bounce between. You need to have contextual alternates to use it. So weird assumption on my part that everybody would have access to a font software that would have that, and people wouldn't be using this for like Microsoft Word. But you know, I don't know. We'll see. I feel like it might not be that popular of a font anyway. I like using fonts like that because they come in handy for a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that everybody does. Let me disconnect my phone in case I'm getting messages. All right, back to it. Let's bring that H and that over. So I haven't, this has all been working pretty well for using the bottoms. I know I said earlier that we were probably going to be cutting some of them off, but and then having to kind of redraw them, but we haven't really had to do any of that yet. Like, this is all working rather nicely. The V's and the W's are going to be a little weird because I don't have an A. So let's backtrack over, move this junk out of the way, see what we can build while avoiding these triangle-shaped characters. We can build a J now. I don't know why I cut the top too. It doesn't need, I mean, it's not too complicated to hand draw this curve. That one wouldn't have fit anyway. K. So with the K, I think what I'm actually going to do is just cut the top. And you know how we talked about not straightening the R? I'm going to straighten it for the K. Just over a little bit. I always think of like this component type design. It's fun, it's practice. It's also just kind of the type that I like to do. I feel like it's more like, I don't know if you'd say like ceramics or pottery, or, you know, it's like working with a pottery wheel or something. You're kind of like, it's a different kind of pixel pushing, because I'm not worried about how many points I have. I can have as many points as I want, because I want this to look like it was made by hand and not by like a computer or something. You know, like there was a time when it was important to me to make a typeface that was very clean and, you know, that whole thing. But that's just not the way I went, you know. I still listen to punk rock and I still draw sloppy fonts. And I like it that way. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. All right. N, M, and N's. Look at this. This is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of duplicating that and rotating it and then reflecting it. And what that's going to do is give us a nice M shape.
Excuse me. This is a private office. Oh, I'm awfully.
And then we just have to cut off all these little
Get out of
pieces here.
For Mr. Calderon.
So that little hook there, those were pieces to make this work with the M or with the N.
Outside. No offense. I just made a clumsy mistake. Please accept my apology.
But with the M, they're not important.
You must be awfully tired after that, but it was wonderful. Like I said before, ma'am.
Or they need to be shifted a little bit.
Sorry. Well,
And this is our first case of missing blood drip. So let's say we want it from a flat piece,
I'm sorry. It's just that
but we also want it from a different piece. Let's take it from this tip of the R. So we're just going to cut the R right there. Get rid of that because we only want the drips. Obviously. And now let's kind of even it there. group.
Now that she's gone,
I don't know, except that
Ugh,
I miss her very much.
I almost,
And sometimes when I think of the way she was, oh, good evening,
I was looking down at the keyboard and I was like,
now don't worry.
what's the shortcut for the pencil tool? I thought it was N, but that's going to open a new document.
Would you like to get started tonight?
What do they say? Don't get old. All right. So now we can make our V
My nerves sometimes.
by just angling that a little less.
It's my turn to apologize. My pleasure, Mr. Calvert. You know where I come from. Folks don't consider
And this one a little less.
how to make an apology unacceptable.
We're going to line them right back up at the bottom. I think I want this actually to be angled a little more than that, though.
Have it brought down to us, please. Another of your specials, Marina. And what would you like?
That feels wide enough. All right, so trimming that down. Raise this one up to there. And get the top ones off there. And kind of like we did with the J. Just a little bit of unevenness. And we'll go ahead and group that. And then while that's there as the V, let's duplicate it and also use it for the A. But I think I'm also going to bring over the H for the A because I'm going to want my center bar, which I will lower a bit, and I'm going to need 2 pieces that drip. So I'm going to ungroup this, slide, ungroup this again. I just said that. And make our A. I'm going to delete that. This A feels a little heavy on the top right. Whenever I go into my Pathfinder and just combine it, I think, if I were doing pottery, it'd be like me just mushing it and then being like, all right, let's get back in. So I'm going to smooth that off. I want this to be a little more wavy. Like that. And here we're going to just cut these down to size. And slim that down a bit. And that's going to exist right there. So a little lower, looking good. We'll go ahead and group that, and actually this angle, yeah, just 1 over. So that starts off that alphabet pretty good, pretty strong. Back to the ending. All right, here we go. Coming in fast with a photo finish. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it the old school style. Notice I cut the feet off the end, because when I angle that, all my drips are going to get angled. And I want this one to also angle a little that way. So that looks pretty good. I don't think we're going to need these redrawn versions, but I think I will take this one and widen it a little bit. just to even up that, and put that there. This got a little weird with the rounding when we changed the shape. I think that looks good as a W. It's a W. Let's just widen this right side a little bit. Whoops. Just gives it a little bit more space. It still feels a little heavy on that side to me. Maybe it's if I trim that and then that will help. Ooh. I'm gonna make my Y next the same way we would. So notice how I trimmed that up a bit. What I'm actually gonna do is duplicate those. I'm gonna delete that first. Ungroup. And then I grab them both at the same time anyway. What is going on? I thought I told you to ungroup. So see how wide the bottom is and how thin the top is? I'm just going to duplicate that side a little bit and duplicate that side a little bit. And that just helped make it seem a little more natural. And we'll mush it together because that's awkward to look at, the way that that was built. And then when I come back in a couple months to build this font out as like a complete font, I'll be like, I don't remember how I did that. It's like my pull string catchphrase. I don't remember how I built that. So it's probably a good thing that I'm recording this. Then I just have to remember that instead of Bloodthirst, I named it like The Vampire's Door or something ridiculous like that. I was thinking about it earlier today. So I have this document with like a spreadsheet essentially to try and keep track of a lot of this stuff, because I've always worked on a lot of fonts at once, but 9 times out of 10, like, they just kind of disappear. And then sometimes I'll find them later and be like, whoa, and I'll finish them. But I'm trying to get better at it, and it also happened with me working on like what I would call a gang file. Like this, it would be a gang file. There's like a gang of fonts in this Illustrator file, or a gang of alphabets. So when I decide to finish one of them, I'm like, I don't know what's where. I don't know what they're called. So I have a document now to try and keep all of this making some sort of sense, which, hey, if that sounds like a headache, it is. Group that. Z looks pretty good. I think that fits with the rest of it. Do you think it'll be easier to make an X from the K? I don't know if it'll look as good. That's my only thing. Watch this. Let's try this. Let's ungroup this one. Again. Again with the weird groups. All right. Just gonna go ahead and mush that all together right now. So I know I very sloppily will make X's like that a lot for a multitude of reasons. I'm making display fonts. Sometimes, you know, it looks right, but other times it'll condense parts of the letter too much. And And I got to go back into it. But I think that time worked out pretty good. I may want to slide it over and widen it up. I think that looks good. All right, so let's bring the H over there. Or better yet, the R, because it's closer. And we'll get our drips going on. And you'll notice that these drips are set a little higher than what we're using as a baseline for this X. So instead of bringing the drips down, I'm going to actually cut the bottom of the X off. Right? Why not? I think that might be interesting. If you want to see if it works or not, I'd say go get the font, but who knows if I finish it and have it up on Remedy 667 next week, that would be the place to check it out. Or the week that this airs, I guess. I don't need people thinking like, holy crap, he drew that in a day. All right, so there you have it. Delete that. You know, I'm not loving this queue, but it doesn't matter. The only reason I'm not loving it is because it dips a little lower than I want it to. So I feel like if I bring it up where I want it, this side coming out of here is actually gonna come down a bit. See that? And then these, that's got to get chopped off. I didn't mean to go back into the queue. I knew we were pretty much done. Look at that, and I remembered how to turn my guides off. So we said that that was a 15-degree angle that we took away from it. And let's give it back and see how that looks. Looks pretty good. The X definitely, the crossbar is definitely too low. So that was a poor idea on my part. Let's investigate a couple ways to fix it. We could just pull it up and cut it off at the top. Just delete it. We don't need that block of text. Just delete it. Look at it again at 15 degrees. I think that looks pretty nice there. So the other thing I was talking about with gang files is you do things. So I have folders where I separate them by the month, and then you roll into April. And if you can see this right here, you're still using the second half of March's gang file with, yeah, I don't know. So I have a spreadsheet to try and keep myself organized. If you have better ideas to keep organized, let me know in the comments, because I'm a disorganized fool, but somehow I can make it happen sometimes. Yeah, so that was it. Horror Font Friday, Bloodthirst. It's actually pretty good that I did it in this week, because that means I can duplicate this, since it is the, we're gonna go JRZ. Okay, it's the same poster, it's the same source material, so we'll group that, and group that, and bring them all together. Who doesn't love a drippy horror font like that? you know, you show me somebody that doesn't love a drippy horror font like that, and I'll show you somebody with a Helvetica business card. That's right. Some damn fine type design right there. Join us next week for another episode of Horror Font Fridays. Do something awesome. Go do something fun. Stop sitting in front of your computer. I will, as soon as I find my cursor, I will see you next week.